Gimel. Female proselyte whose daughter consorted with her and subsequently committed adultery, the latter is liable for strangling. Neither the requirement to take her to the door of the father's house applies to her, now 100 selah. Even if her conception had not been in holiness, but her birth had been in holiness, she is liable to stoning. Neither the requirement to take her to the door of the father's house applies to her, nor to the 100 selah. If both her conception and her birth were in holiness, she is like a daughter of Israel in all respects. If she has a father, but she has no door of the father's home, or if she has a door of the father's house but has no father, she is nevertheless liable to stoning. And the door of a father's house was intended only as a precept. The father has the authority over his daughter regarding Emerson, whether affected by money, by document, or by relations. He has the right to her findings, her handiwork, and the absolution of her vows, and receives a bill of divorce, but he does not enjoy the offer during the lifetime. If she married, the husband exceeds him in that he enjoys the offer of the lifetime. If he is liable for her support, a ransom, and a burial. Rabbi Yehuda says even the poorest in Israel may not hire fewer than 2 fruits or laminated wood. Is that it?
No, one more.
Or she is still under the authority of her father until he enters the authority of her husband at marriage. If the father gave her over to the agents of the husband, she is in the authority of her husband. If the father went along with the husband's agents, or if the father agents went along with the husband's agents, she is still in authority of her father. If the father's agent gave her over to the husband's agents, she's in the authority of the husband. Right.
Okay. Obligations of the father. Ha'av eino chayav b'mezonos bito. He does not have. Here's a great one, right? The father does not have to sustain his daughter. Doesn't have to feed her at all. She can fend for herself, right? Ze midrash darash Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah lifnei chachamim bekermik beyavne. What's the drasha that Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said? Habanim yirshu v'habanos yizono. So we have a principle that the sons inherit and the daughters are fed. Okay, so when basically that's saying when a father dies, um, the sons take the estate, but the estate is still in lien to the daughters, and they must be kept fed and clothed until they are married. Okay, ma habanim einan yorshin elel achar misasa'av. Just like the father, the sons only receive the inheritance when their father dies. Afabanos enan nizonos ela la'achar misas avihen. So the daughters also only receive sustenance after their father dies. Okay, so now you can if anyone wants to say that they don't want to feed their child, it's mandated by the
But
Mishna.
how does that work with a young girl who's like 3, 4, 5 years old? He's not necessary, but he can still feed her and stuff like that. Right.
I
Right.
don't know. I don't know if this is like actually a practical question. Like, would any father refuse to feed his child? I don't know. That just seems like. I,
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I just can't see how that could actually be like a practical ruling. What's the child supposed to do? Go out and work?
Right. Oh,
Uh, I don't know. I don't know what this is coming to prove. Does I didn't see any specific commentary in the art scroll on this one. Um, it was very short on commentary on this particular Mishnah. Maybe the author of the commentary was uncomfortable with this Mishnah. I don't know.
okay.
Anyway, lo kasav la kasuba. What happens if a husband didn't give his wife a kasuba, or she lost the kasuba, let's say? Basula gova masaim. Nonetheless, one who was married when she was basula, she is entitled to 200 zuz for almana mane, and if she was married before, then only 100. Mipnei shehu t'nai based in. That is something that was made as a ruling of based in, as a standard across the board. Every woman gets a kasuba, even if the husband didn't do it. Kasav la sadeh shave maneh tachas masayim zuz. If instead of giving her that 200 zuz, he wrote into the kasuba that she gets this field which is worth 100 zuz, um, as a lien on the property. V'lo kasav la kol nichsim de'isli achrayin lichsuvasich, and he didn't write that all of my properties are what's the word, in lien to this Kesubah. Chayav, sorry, just because you didn't put it in the Kesubah doesn't mean it's not there. It is it's a Tanai based in, and there's a lien on all of his landed properties to pay off his Kesubah. Lo kasav la im tishtavai afar kanich. If you are captured, I will ransom you and return you to me to be a wife. Okay, for over kohenes, if for the wife of a Kohen, ahadranich lemedinasich, I will return you to your home, to your country. Because unfortunately, if a Kohen's wife is captured and she is presumed raped, she can't return to the Kohen.
Right.
He would have to divorce her, but nonetheless, he still has the obligation to ransom her because that's part of the conditions of the Kesubah. Chayev shehu tanai based in. It's one of the things that's a standard across the board, and even if it's not written in the Kesubah, it's effectively there. And now that I think about it, I mean, I've studied the Kesubah and read out a Kesubah underneath the chuppah, and there was nothing in there about if you're captured, I will ransom you. That would have stood out to me. Um, it's not actually in the text, but it's nonetheless a standard of as a Tanai based in. Okay, back to base Aleph.
Aleph. A woman who is widowed or divorced and says, "You are married to me. You married me as a virgin." He says, "Not so, but I married you as a widow." If there are witnesses that she went out with a veil and her hair untied, Kesubah is 200 zuz. The Yochanan ben Broka says the distribution of parched grain is also proof. And Rabbi Yehuda admits that if one says to another, "The field was your father's, and I brought it from him," he is believed, for the one that created the liability is the one that undid it. If, however, there are witnesses that it was his father's and he says, "I bought it from him," he is not believed. If witnesses says, "This is our handwriting, but we were coerced, or we were minors, or we were unfit for testimony," they are believed. If, however, there are witnesses that is their handwriting, or their handwriting is verified from another source, they are not believed. Okay. And Ramos, okay. We have Vav Vav. A man may not refrain from the mitzvah of being fruitful and multiplying unless he has children. Shammai says two males, but Beis Hillel says a male and a female. As it is stated, he created them male and female. One who married a woman and remained with her 10 years, but she did not bear children, is not permitted to refrain from the filling of the mitzvah. If he divorced her, she may marry another, and the second one may remain with her for 10 years. If she miscarried, he counts from the time of her miscarriage. The man is commanded to be fruitful and multiply, but not the woman. Rabbi Yochanan and Broka says concerning both of them, it is stated, "And God blessed them and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply." If a widow who is married to a Kohen Gadol, or a divorcee or a Kalutza who was married to an ordinary Kohen, brought Melog slaves or fixed value slaves into the marriage for him, the Melog slaves may not eat Truma, but the fixed value slaves may eat Truma. These are the Melog slaves. If they died, the loss is hers, and if they appreciated, the profit is hers. Even though he is obligated to feed them, they may not eat Truma. And these are the fixed value slaves. If they died, the loss is his, and if they appreciated, the profit is his. Since he is liable for their loss, they may eat Truma. If the daughter of a Yisrael married a Kohen and brought into the marriage, slaves for him, whether they are Melag slaves or fixed value slaves, they may eat Truma. However, if the daughter of a Kohen married a Yisrael and brought into the marriage either Molag slaves or fixed value slaves, they may not eat Truma. The daughter of Yisrael married a Kohen and he died, leaving her pregnant. Her
Hold on,
slaves may not.
we're done.
Okay. Sukkah. Okay. Gimel Gimel. A stolen willow twig or a dry one is invalid. One from an Asherah or from a city that was led astray is invalid. If its top was broken off or its leaves were severed, or it is tasisfa, it is invalid. One whose leaves are wilted or part of its leaves have fallen off, or one from a field is valid. Ishmael says three myrtle wigs, two willow twigs, one lulav, and one estrog are required. Even if two are broken off and one is not broken off, Reb Tarfon says even if all three are broken off. Rabbi Akiva says just as there is one lulav and one estrog, so there may be one myrtle twig and one willow twig. A stolen estrog or a dry one is invalid. One from an Asherah or from a city that was led astray is invalid, and one of all is invalid. One of contaminated truma isn't valid. If it is a pure truma, you should not use it. But if it's used, it is valid. If it is the mai, Beis Shammai validates it, and Beis Hillel validates it. If it is of Ma'aser Sheni in Yerushalayim, you should not use it. But if you used it, it is valid.
Okay.
Trumos. Zion Gov. If one of them fell into chulin, but it's not rendered the meduma, and the other one treats it as truma, and he's liable to chala. So says Reb Meir, but Reb Yossi exempts. If the other one fell into another place that does not render him meduma, it both fell into the same place that rendered meduma in a proportion to the smaller of the two. If he sold one of them, he is exempt, and the other one must treat it as truma, and he is liable to chala. So says Reb Meir, but Reb Yossi exempts. And if another person sold the other, he is exempt. If one sold both, it is of a kind whose seed perishes, it is permitted. But if of a kind whose seed does not perish, it is forbidden. If a woman was eating truma and they came and said to her, your husband is dead, or he divorced you, or likewise a slave who was eating truma and they came and said, your master is dead, your master has sold you to a non-priest, or he has given you away as a gift, or he has freed you, and likewise if a priest was eating truma and became known that he was the son of a divorced woman or a chalutza, the Eliezer holds him liable to payment of the vow and a fifth. And Yusha exempts, but if he was standing and sacrificing at the altar and it became known that he was the son of a divorced woman or a chalutza, if Eliezer says all the sacrifices which he offered on the altar are invalid, Yeshua says the class is valid. If it became known that he had a blemish, his ministration is invalid. Okay. Oleos. Okay. We have said Zion. In what case does this apply? When the hive is a utensil with windows, however, if it was broken and stuffed with straw, or if the windows were covered, what is considered covered? When there is no window the size of a handbreadth, but an hollow-sized piece of corpse is located underneath the hive, utensils directly below the hive, as deep as one can go, become tameh. If the hollow-sized piece is above the hive, utensils directly above the hollow-sized piece up to the sky become tameh. If the hollow-sized piece is inside the hive or in the house, inside the hive and the house become tameh. If the hive is a handbreadth above the ground and there is tumor below it in the house or inside the hive, everything becomes tummy except for what is above the hide. If the tumor is above the hide, utensils directly above the tumor and up to the sky become tummy. If the hive fills the entire house and there is less than a handbreadth of space between the hive and the joist, and there is tumor inside the hive, the house becomes tummy. If there is tumor inside the house, anything inside the house remains tahor, because it is the way of tumor to exit or not the way of tumor to enter. This law applies whether the hive is standing upright or whether it's lying on its side, and whether there is one hive or two.
Okay.
And idios.
Adios.
Okay, Zion Aleph. Yeshua and Reb Tzadok testify regarding a firstborn donkey redemption sheep that died in the Kohen that has no claim at all upon the owner. But Reb Eliezer says the owner is responsible for the redemption sheep, just as it is for the 5 selim of a son. But the sages say the owner is not responsible for the redemption sheep, rather is like redemption money of Ma'aser Sheni. Reb Tzadok testified concerning the brine of 9 kosher grasshoppers that was tahor, because the earlier Mishnah had stated 9 kosher grasshoppers that were pickled together with kosher grasshoppers do not render their brine forbidden. Reb Tzadok testified concerning where the flowing waters are greater than the trickling waters, that they are valid. There was an incident in Beres Hapila, and the incident was brought before the sages, and they ruled the mingled water fit.
Okay. And that's it.
Okay. Going to work today?